hopefully we're going live. All right, so we are live. All right, so let me go ahead and start that over again. So you can find Intern Pursuit on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And you can also find our game on Facebook and Twitter, and you can watch us live on Facebook. Search for Intern Pursuit. You can call us live on the air. The phone number is 407-582-2906, and you can chat with us online with on Intern Pursuit's live chat.
Up first is our first patron, Orlando Devs. We are a community of software developers in Orlando, Florida. Whether you love writing code or you're just getting started, you are welcome here. Their website is orlandodevs.com. Thank you, Orlando Devs, for being patron of the Intern Whisperer.
All right, so students, if you want to work with one of our great employers or with Intern Pursuit, go to internpursuit.tech and create your profile to be matched. I'm really excited to say we have national presence. We have students from California to Florida that have signed up, and I'm really excited to see this grow. We also invite employers of all types and sizes to be part of our early adopter beta program. Early adopters pay a special price. It will be increasing first of the year. So if you want to be an early adopter and take advantage of that, be sure to contact us at info@internpursuit.tech. So we're going to be welcoming Justin Nguyen to the Intern Whisperer. So welcome, Justin.
What's going on? What's going on? It's great to be on.
I am so glad that you're here. And I'm going to go ahead and let Melanie kick off our first question.
Yeah, so I was actually going to ask you about your schooling. You recently graduated from UCF. What are some resources that you miss on campus, or anything really that you miss about being a part of the UCF community?
Yeah, go Knights. I mean, I didn't know that they had a podcasting facility. I believe it's in the All Night Study that they've got that in there, and it's free to use for all students, which is really unique.
Oh, wow.
I did one recording in there for another local podcast.
Is it like 24/7? It's always being booked out, or
I don't know how.
hard?
Yeah, I don't know how booked out it is. I never tried to book it. I just been there once, and it was.
Oh wait, you mean you just can walk into the room?
Well, the podcast that I was on, they had already booked it.
Okay,
So I
gotcha.
was recording for another podcast, so I'm not sure how that kind of works. But I know if you are a student, or I think even if you are a faculty member, you have access to it. And it doesn't seem to be too widely used from my understanding. So
is it a room about the size of where we are right now in
yeah,
Valencia?
it's kind of like this. I would say it's a little bit more souped up in terms of it has, I think, the foam walls.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
got
the crates,
a whole bunch of mics. It's got more of a tech setup.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. Again, I was only there once. It could have changed since then. But yeah, it was really cool. That's something. I utilize career coaches a lot. I started off just to get my GEB points, but I ended up going to my career coach, Mike Torres, he doesn't work there anymore, unfortunately. But
Wait, when you say career coach, are they a staff member at UCF?
yes, so it's
Okay.
a staff member at UCF who is literally there to kind of like coach you through your career, essentially. Especially for me, coming from being a first-generation student. My parents, like, they knew about business, they knew about school, but they didn't know like how to put me in the right direction per se. So going through to someone who's actually worked and who actually knows kind of the financial point of view, really helped me in guiding the right path, which is interesting because I'm not in finance anymore. But it was really crucial for me to get my first internship.
Really interesting. Now, the two people that are sitting across from us are both Knights. They come from UCF.
Awesome.
And so Melanie is in the journalism and the broadcasting side. She was
Okay.
doing her internship here to see if this is the path that she wanted to take as a career.
I'm not sure if it's available for broadcasting majors, but they do have that Shark Tank internship. I don't know if you've heard of it before.
I'm not quite sure.
So
I
there's,
don't think I've heard of it.
yeah, so I think the executive producer of Shark Tank, he's actually a UCF alum. So every year, I think he only
The
takes...
UCF Shark Tank,
Yeah,
not the big
no,
one.
I'm talking...
Like the big national
yeah,
one.
the big national one.
Whoa.
Yeah. He's I forget what his name is, but he's executive producer. I know for the TV productions, it's a part of their, like, you can be a part of it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about broadcasting if it
Yeah.
is or not, but that'd be really cool. I know I have a couple friends that that keep telling me about it. They haven't been able to get into it, but they like fly you out to LA
Wow.
for I think 10
Wow.
or 12 weeks during all the recordings. They put you up in a place, they pay you, and whole 9 yards. So it's something that you
It
should
sounds like
definitely.
it's really an elite program to get into.
Yeah, I think they pick maybe 10 people. Don't hold me to that. I'm not 100% sure, but it's very selective. But you just have to pretty much show why you should be a part of that. So whether it's audio editing, whether it's
Yeah.
videographing, whatever it may be, pretty much proving your point and showcasing that, hey, I deserve to get that spot over X, Y, and Z. You probably have to be doing something more than just a regular internship, or probably something more than just getting good grades in your class.
Yeah, I
Probably-
would think so.
You have to show that you're valuable.
Yeah, you have to be really assertive in that area.
Yeah.
And so we also have Sydney Lundy. She is
Hello.
showing up. You got to be like super close to
Oh.
your microphone. And she's from UCF and I
Hey.
think communications, right?
Yes, really interdisciplinary studies, and I know that's confusing to most people.
No, our listeners know what that is.
we
because
get it.
talk
Okay,
about
great.
it.
So it's half
Yeah.
communications for me, half commerce, and I have a film minor.
Got it. Got it. All right. So, what piece of advice do you think would be really valuable for networking? Because you just came back from a big week of networking that you're going on. I know you're a big networker and you work LinkedIn. So, what do you think would be a really good piece of advice for our listeners to do
Yeah.
on that
it's-
career path?
Of course. I hate the word networking because it feels very transactional when you say it, especially when people use it in the business world. They're like, oh, you need to network to get to that next level. And for me, when I tried to network to get to that next level, it never felt authentic. It was like, oh, I need to talk to this guy because he's going to lead me to getting this person on the podcast, or it's going to lead me to getting this internship, or whatever it is. When I started to actually just making friends with people and like learning about their story and like having a genuine conversation and not just talking business, but talking about, oh, they like hip hop, or oh, they like soccer.
Relationship.
Exactly. And building on that, then it actually led me to more opportunities in life. So I'll give you an example. A couple weeks ago, the MLS All-Star game was in Orlando. So I went to the Open FIFA qualifiers just because one of my boys is the FIFA esports player for Orlando City. Just came out to support him, and I played in the tournament. Was just chatting with people, saw that this one dude, everyone kept coming up to him. Everyone kept coming up to him. I was like, who is this guy? So I just started talking to him, and I was like, hey, I got to go meet with my girlfriend, but I'll be back for like the after party portion of it. Came back around like 7 p.m., said what's up to him again. He's like, dude, you need to meet my sister-in-law. I was like, who's your sister-in-law? Just happened to be the VP of marketing for Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo is a huge sponsor for MLS. So because of that, I got into a whole bunch of like the private parties that you don't hear about.
Exclusive.
All of these things. That's where you actually can meet the right people. You have to get kind of access to those parties that people don't know about. Because like, for instance, at those parties, I met Kaká, I met Charlie Davis, Jimmy Conrad. All of these are like U.S. men's national team players. Kaká is one of the greatest soccer players ever to step foot on earth. And these are also around like MLS executives too. So what I mean by that is you can't go into it expecting, because when you go into with expectations, highly successful people can really notice that.
Yeah.
But when you go up to them and say, hey, like, I know you did X, Y, and Z. I would love to learn about, I'm a young person. I would love to learn more about how you made that jump from college to career or whatever it is. They're more open to it because it feels authentic. And
Genuine.
Exactly.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
because if it feels like you're just trying to come in and either sell me something or, use me in a way, and I think it's okay to, I don't want to say the word use, but essentially I think we do that. But it should be a two-way street where there's not a transaction going on, but, a real relationship.
Yeah, it's definitely a science. And I think the only way that you really get to learn it is by like just forcing yourself to go out to these places. I was a really quiet kid.
I find that so hard to believe.
Like I was the quiet kid that I'm quiet because I analyze a lot. So I'm always the person sitting in the back of the room trying to figure out who's talking to who, how are they talking to people, how are they acting, blah, 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 blah.
What is it? Who are they? Who's the player in the room? All of that.
Exactly. So that's what I do, and then I analyze in my head, and then I go and I'm very specific on like who I talk, because what a lot of people like to do, especially at these networking events, is like, how many hands can I shake? How many business cards can I give
Yeah.
out? And the thing is, we've all been to those where it's like you don't even remember who gave you what card.
Yeah.
So what I started to do is I started treating it differently. I was like, let me make 3 really good connections every time I go out. that actually remember me and I actually remember them. So then when I do hit them back up, whether it's the next day or whether it's in a week, they actually remember me. And I think that's the difference. That's what a lot of people don't realize. So especially like career fairs, students will try and hit 50 companies, 20, 50 companies because they're like, oh, this gives me a better chance.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if that person doesn't remember you,
You're exactly right. You are so right. Because in 1 week, I had 200 people apply for internships with me, but also with some of the employers that are a part of Intern Pursuit. And I'm looking at all of them, and the ones that had taken the extra step, they reached out, they contacted me. That made them somebody that I was more interested in because they weren't passive. They were really taking an initiative, and that's important.
yeah, it's like, because I've gone to a few conferences now, and sometimes I volunteer and I'm the mic runner. And it's like, how do you position yourself best to ask that person a question? Because obviously, especially if you're going to a big audience, you're competing with hundreds, if not thousands of people sometimes. How do you get noticed? You have to figure out who's going to be that mic runner, who's going to be the person choosing, and then you constantly talk to them. So like when you're walking in, if you said hi to me, I recognize you, say what's up, blah, 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 and then you raise your hand because you want to ask a question, I'm more likely to look at you than that random person that's just raising their hand. Just because in the back of my head, I remember your face. So whenever my uncle gave me this piece of advice where he's like, you need to always be friends with the janitor and the security guards.
That's good.
Because
And the receptionist and the executive assistant to whoever you're trying to get to.
Absolutely.
because
Gatekeepers.
those, not necessarily just the gatekeepers, but they're the ones who know where everything is going to be going
Yes.
on. So they
Yes.
can place you in that place where that celebrity is going to be walking through. All of a sudden, you're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And you never know when that person is going to be that gatekeeper for that instance. So that's something that I've kind of realized and noticed is like, hey, say hi to that doorman because you never know. That might be the person that's passing around the mic. And if he remembers you and he thinks that you're an authentic, cool person, you probably have 1 point against for you than that other person who's just randomly raising their hand to ask a question.
Yeah, the maitre d' or whoever is also running the convention, they're going to know where the people are at the tables, the main, the main people at the tables that you want to connect with. And you can sometimes say, okay, can I get as close to this table as possible? And they'll hook you up.
Yeah, as long as you're nice. And it's something that's really weird, but it's like,
Because
especially
they
in the
look
business.
invisible in the room and people don't pay attention to them. And when somebody acknowledges them, it's a big deal.
Yep, exactly. You just got to be nice.
Yeah, I agree. So who are your leaders? Wait, let me go back one. I know we were talking about this before the show started, but, well, I'll back it up even more. Let's go to your business name. Where did the inspiration come for the name of your business?
Yeah, so GetChoGrindUp kind of came out of a joke. It was a little bit of banter between me and my boys on my Snapchat story and on my my Instagram story and stuff. People used to always like joke around like, "Oh, you're just getting good grades and getting good internships because you're Asian." I'm like, "Ha, it's not a bad thing. Like, I'm not complaining. It's not
Yeah.
a bad stereotype." But I'm like, "Okay, let me show you like the actual work that I'm doing to get these good grades to get these good internships." So I started going on like my Snapchat story of like coming home from Universal at midnight and then going into studying for a couple hours for that exam, or staying up late to go to this late night networking to meet the right person. And then at the end, I would say, get your grind up. And my girlfriend was like, you need to make him something more memorable. So we changed your to Cho. So it's kind of a little bit
of slang, street talk.
Exactly. And it's something that kind of like an unseen consequence of it was like people started thinking that my last name was Cho because I'm Asian. And it's like, I wish that would have been
That's
perfect.
hilarious.
That would have been perfect. I wish it was, but it's not. But yeah, Get Cho Grind Up, it rolls off the tongue. It's really catchy, especially with like our target audience of the younger generation, millennial, Gen Z. They really understand that. And basically what we're trying to do is really impact students, help students succeed, whether it's going down the traditional route or the non-traditional route, because school has been kind of shoved down our generation's throat, whether it is for you or whether it's not. And we tend to believe that it's not necessarily right for everyone, but
I would agree with you totally.
Yeah.
I'm not your generation, but school isn't for everybody, and there's so much available out there that you can, whether it's Udemy, you can do total self-learning and get yourself that career that you're looking for. It doesn't have to be through certifications of regular academic, the regular academic world. What I think is valuable for most people is it's a transition period because they're trying to figure out who they are. You seem to be ahead of the curve. And so they begin to go, okay, what do I want to do? They're trying to figure it all out. What career, what industry? They don't even know anything about industries. So it's exploratory, if nothing else, and a way to experience a transition from leaving home to that next step of getting a job.
Yeah, no,
For the
100%.
masses, they might need it, but for people that are really driven, I think that you can totally bypass it.
I mean, I think the idea of college, of what it's interesting, right? Our whole lives we're kind of pitched that college and university is supposed to be that educational piece that puts you on that next level. But I think the real value prop of college is more of the atmosphere and the experience that you get by being around different sort of people from all around the world, etc. And the thing that is in the back of my head is like, that's great and all, but is it worth thousands upon thousands of dollars? And it's like, it's a balance that you have to kind of play.
If you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, anything like that, one of those types of professions, absolutely. But for some of the other things,
exactly.
maybe not.
Yeah, like if you're being a doctor, please do really good in school.
Yeah, I want to be a doctor. I don't want that C or B doctor.
Exactly. Like I really pray that my doctor is an A+ student from Harvard or whatever, because I want that. Yeah. But if you're like someone who, like for instance, for me, I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do in life. When I was graduating high school, I just broke my junior year, and I thought I was going to play pro soccer, and I was getting D1 scholarships, etc. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Junior year comes, all that stuff gets scratched off the table, and I'm kind of like in an identity crisis of what do I do now? And college kind of helped me because I was kind of pushed down the doctor route because my parents were like, you need to be a doctor, engineer, lawyer, whatever. And I was like, okay, whatever. I'll combine my love for sports with exercise science. So I was like, I'll be an athletic trainer, hopefully do it for like a professional soccer team or something. When I started taking that classes and I was like, this is really not for me. I think that's the beauty of college, of like, you can fail, but since you're around people with such different minds, they can kind of help you mold into the path that you didn't even see yourself. So my roommate, the reason I got into finance was because we played a video game called FIFA. And on FIFA, there's kind of like a stock market of players. Players are worth coins, a certain amount of coins. And you can trade it like a stock market, buy low, sell high, essentially. And I was really good at seeing patterns. And I made 1 million coins within like the first 3 months that the game was out.
Wow.
And my roommate was like, dude, why don't you do this in real life? Like, you can make some serious money. I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't even know what finance was at the time. But that's kind of, he pushed me down that track of telling me things that I didn't even know about.
That is amazing. That is a great story.
I think that's the beauty of college. And it's like, how do you put a price on that? I don't know.
Yeah.
But you're really self-aware because the fact that you could see the patterns, I don't think that a lot of people are as intuitive to their...
Well, I was playing it for the video game. I just thought it was fun. I was like, the more coins I get, the better players I can buy, the more I can win. My roommate was the one of
who
like...
noticed the patterns.
Yeah, he was like, dude, this is real life. Why don't you just do this in real life? I was like, okay. Because I didn't even know what economics was. I didn't know what finance was.
Right.
To put it in perspective, when I told my mom I was switching my major to finance, she was like, you're not going to make any money, even though finance is like...
Literally,
Finance is all
finance is
about
money.
money.
Yeah, because we didn't even we don't even understand what finance was.
Yeah.
Because especially coming from like an immigrant background, I tend to see that the reason that they kind of force their kids down like the traditional of doctor, lawyer, engineer, etc., is because that's what you're kind of told in movies, in TV shows, and that's what they see, that's what they read. I mean, yes, you can, if you know business, then you know finance is a big portion of it. But if you're not involved in business at all, you're really only told that lawyers succeed, doctors succeed, and engineers succeed, unless you're watching Wolf of Wall Street. And who wants their son or daughter to be the Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah, no one.
It's not a great example.
Yeah, no. That one's not.
I think like just hearing you speak, it shows the importance of just knowing yourself and what's best for you. Because I feel like, yeah, exactly. Because I feel like what often leads people to failure is that they're so fixed on the path that other people are making for them and they can't fulfill that, and then that ends up just showing
taking
up
you in a wrong direction, or
yeah,
not doing
and
well.
you end up not being motivated in your work or your school or what you're studying, and then that's just where like failure comes from.
And I don't think failure is a bad thing, because
Yeah.
I agree with
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Like I had told some of them that I had flunked out of school when I went to FSU, and I got sent home, and I went, okay, that's real humbling. I'd spent too much time with the ex-boyfriend at that time, and it was very eye-opening. And my parents said, well, if you want to go back to school now, you're going to be paying for it yourself. And again, very, very different. So I did. I worked full-time. I went to school full-time. I did it at night, and I made those A's. I was on that president's list, and all of a sudden it became really important. So hard life lesson to learn, but really valuable in the end.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Totally. So what do you enjoy about being an entrepreneur? And we were talking about this, and you're going to tell us the difference. And then what are the challenges that you're experiencing?
Yeah, I personally don't think I'm an entrepreneur just yet. People like to label me that, and they throw that label at me, and I understand why, because I'm kind of living my own life right now, but I'm not necessarily self-sustained. One of the biggest challenges of being an entrepreneur is like, how do you make money?
Yeah.
And I'm not the biggest salesperson. I've never been that type of person. And obviously without sales, there's no money. So
you don't live long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like I made a lot of money interning through my college years, and I would highly suggest if you're in college to find lucrative internships, because they are out there. And that's how I've been kind of financing myself over the past 6 to 8 months, trying to figure out how we're going to create money, how we're creating a business plan, etc. But what I do love and enjoy about it is that I get to really control my schedule. And I know people say that all the time, but over this past, I want to say 4 or 5 months, it's been really crucial to me, because since I think in February or March, I was able to go to South by Southwest for 2 weeks.
Oh, that's an awesome
It was
place.
amazing
What a great
conference.
conference.
Yeah, I got to meet a whole ton of people, had a lot of fun. And then in May, I got to go to Japan with my aunt's family for a couple weeks there. Just came back from Podcast Movement. I'm going to Dubai for a speaking engagement in October.
And you couldn't have those opportunities.
I probably wouldn't be able to, because who's gonna, like, I had a job offer doing consulting for the Big Four for one of the Big Four firms upon graduation, and they're not gonna let me take 5 weeks off within the first 3 months of work.
No.
I highly doubt it. They're gonna be wanting me working 60 to 80 hours, and I mean that's something that obviously it's great, but you have to learn how to handle it at the same time. And I'll be completely honest, those first kind of 4 or 5 months of like, oh wow, I'm not a student, I don't have to worry about classes, I don't have to worry about money right now because I have a good amount of savings. I was just
And you
living
were
life.
wise. You
Yeah.
you saved your money,
Yes.
which a lot of people don't always think that way.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by kind of money and how to save it. That's initially why I went to UCF.
Have the money work for you too.
Yeah, because coming from Connecticut, very expensive up there. And if I was planning on going to UConn, but I was also looking at schools down here. And UConn, the cost, if I went to UConn in-state, it would still be $10,000 to $15,000 more than if I went to UCF in-state. So saving a crap ton of money there.
Yeah.
And I just thought, like, long term, I didn't want that debt to really be held over my head. I mean, thinking about that as a senior in high school, but I was like, yeah, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. Or burden your parents with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, they've done way too much for me. I don't want to put any more on their shoulders.
Yeah. Because if you were, it sounds like you were phenomenal in soccer, and to be that good, that's a big sacrifice for the parents.
Oh,
Because it
100%.
costs so much money.
Time and money.
Yeah.
It's insane. Yeah, we were driving 4 hours, 4 to 8 hours every weekend to play in New York, Boston, etc. every weekend.
And registration fees and everything.
Oh
that
yeah, it
comes
was
with it.
crazy expensive. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation of how expensive to play soccer it is in this
Well,
country.
any sport.
Yeah, soccer's crazy though. Soccer's like, if you want to play at the elite level and like get noticed, you have to pay about 10 G's a year.
Wow. Yeah. I know it's that way for like gymnasts, for dance,
Yeah.
for any of those. It's very
It's
expensive.
crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so who are some leaders or mentors, living, dead, personally, you don't know, that have shaped your thinking and helped you grow? I know you've thrown some names out here, but it can be whatever level you want.
Yeah, I would say in the business world, what really got me learning about it is Gary Vaynerchuk.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say explain that to our listeners because not everybody knows who he is.
Yeah, Gary Vaynerchuk, huge marketing mogul on all social media platforms, kind of growing like crazy. But he's kind of the one that I started seeing on YouTube and stuff that talked about the business world in a way that I could understand it. So that's what led me there. Still follow a bunch of his content. And then
He's very real and he's very raw.
yeah, he's very raw and he's very brute, which is kind of the type of person that I am too. So I totally resonate with a lot of the things that he says.
Yeah.
And then another kind of idol, mentor, leader are my parents, my grandparents especially. So both my parents are Vietnamese refugees. They came over when they were around 10, 12 years old or so.
Oh, wow.
So no, they left everything from back home. And my grandfather's story is pretty incredible of like he tried to escape 2 times, got thrown into jail both times. They're like, if we catch you again, you're not getting out.
As a child or an adult?
No, as an adult. So he was trying to
Okay.
escape with my mom's side of the
Okay.
family. Yeah, so it was after the Vietnam War. And then on his 3rd try, he was like, we need to split up the family into 2 groups of 4. So the first group went out. They were no food, no water on the boat. Luckily got picked up by a Navy ship, I believe a Philippine Navy ship. And then the second group came over. My grandfather knew 0 English. He was very well off in Vietnam, so he left all of that. Came over to the States. Again, didn't know English, graduated college in 2 years, has several patents, many of them being the computer fans. So he's one of the first people to kind of help create the computer fans. So
Wow.
without him, computers would overheat essentially. And I'm like, if this dude can do that, not knowing any English and graduating in 2 years,
Yeah.
what's my excuse, right? So
Exactly.
that was kind of like, I need to get my own grind up of like, once I heard that story, it's like, yeah, I can't be lazy anymore. Because in high school, I was really lazy. I was a really lazy kid.
You mean like in the academic pursuit? Because it doesn't sound like that. You were
Both.
very driven in your sports side.
I was driven in sports, but I was still lazy on the field. So I was like that kid that was very talented, was like gifted, so to say.
Yeah.
But I didn't work hard. And I was kind of that entitled kid. And then when I heard my grandfather's story, it was more of like,
It smacked you in the face.
yeah, I was like, I can't be taking this for granted, especially when I saw what I could have done in soccer if I worked harder. Like, kind of the reason that I got hurt was because I didn't work hard. I got pushed, like I was a center mid and I got put to center back because I didn't run as much, but I was a good mental reader of the game. And because I was playing center back, I tried to go into the tackle and the kid stuck his studs straight up to my shins and I broke my leg. So it's like when I look back on all these things, it's like I might have been able to avoid that if
Yeah.
I worked harder and I kept my position. So it was just kind of these little realizations of like, all right, Justin, you need to get your grind up. There's no excuses anymore.
But each one of those, I don't know about everybody in the room, but I think that those events that happen in our life, they do help shape us and they help us go, okay, never again, because it takes incredibly hard lessons. I think we're stubborn as people, that we're kind of prideful. You know, there's just so much about it. It's like, okay, you're going to have to suffer something tremendous to make it so that it gets your attention.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's crazy. And I kind of get those lessons through my parents and after I've learned about their stories because they don't really talk about it much, which I totally understand.
Is it really painful for them?
Yeah,
or,
it's
Or they
tough.
don't want to relive it? Or?
Yeah, well, because it's like they were like, imagine a boat like around this size, but like 20, like probably 30 to 50 people are
It's super
shoved into
crowded,
there,
yeah.
and you're floating into who knows where. Like my dad's side, I guess their story is even crazier. Of like, they were on a boat. They were boat people in Vietnam, and they were just like, okay, we're just gonna leave apparently, and they were out of food, out of water, didn't really know where they were going. And as the story goes, from my grandfather, they were pushed ashore by either a killer whale or by a dolphin. So like very lucky out of all things. Obviously, who knows what was true or what was not, hallucinations or whatever. But like just hearing that of like that's a possibility and that probably happened is insane. Of like, I live in the U.S.
So you were born here?
Yes,
you're
I
a
was
US
born here. Yeah,
citizen.
yeah, and I was like, this is crazy learning about how they came over here. I live in the U.S. I have a roof over my head. I'm literally probably able to do whatever I want in terms of trying to do whatever I want. I've got no excuse.
Yeah, that takes a lot of maturity. I'm really impressed with your story and your family's.
It didn't happen. Like people are like, oh, why can't you talk to like my high school student, like motivate them more? I'm like, I was worse than your high school student. Like I was literally, I didn't do anything. I did all my homework at home. I didn't study. I barely ran for soccer, all that stuff. Like you think of like the worst possible person of like being gifted and not working hard. That's who I was.
Yeah.
And like I realized like, oh, I need to do a lot more come college when I realized like my parents and my grandparents.
Are you an only child?
No, I have a younger brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So he at least maybe learned from your example.
Yeah, he's like I don't know where you came where it came from. So he's a funny guy. He says that he was like abducted by aliens because he's like had a whole mental shift but he was like your kind of mindset from high school to what you're doing now in college because he watched me. I was working like 3 jobs at one point in college while maintaining.
So you went to school, you studied, and 3 jobs.
Yeah, so I went to school maintaining high GPA. I interned at Lockheed Martin for 25 hours a week, worked part-time for 25 to 40 hours a week at Universal, and then also worked at a startup at the same time for about
You're like the
2
dream.
months.
Wow.
I was just like, I need to try as many things as possible because I didn't know what
That's
I wanted
so
to do.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm getting paid to do it, so why not? And I didn't realize like time. I didn't have the concept of time of like spending too much time doing something.
Yeah.
So I was like, why not just not be at home and make money? So
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that people do not realize their potential, and I've said that to several people. You know, you're stronger than what you realize. You can do more than what you realize, and you really need to push yourself. And it can be that you're putting in lots of time, but you were trying out different experiences to figure out what is it that you want to do and see, is this the industry? Is this really is this the job I want to do? And it really brought you to this place where you are now, making your own destiny here.
yeah, I was just like, yeah, if I can't see myself doing this for 30, 40 years, why am I going to continue doing that?
Yeah, it's about the passion.
It was scary, yeah.
Yeah, totally get it.
Yeah. So speaking of industry, I kind of want to go into the conversation of your career fairs because we did our research on in-person career fairs versus like online career events. Why did you want to go into an industry of a niche career fair?
So basically what we're trying to do with this is I remember when I was going to career fairs, right? It feels kind of like you're cattle being herded, essentially, right? You're in a room with 2,000 people, 200 companies, and it's like there's too much going on, sensory overload.
Yeah.
And what I realized is even though I had, people will say like the perfect resume, high GPA, high GPA, involved in clubs, blah, 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 when I was trying to get my first internship, I couldn't even get a call back. So I applied to like 50 internships, didn't get a call back, and I was like, what is going on? I'm doing what everyone told me to do. And the way that I got my first internship was like, I went back to Connecticut. I hit up one of my good friends that I played soccer with in high school, and I noticed that he was the college unit director for a financial company. And I was like, hey, see that you're doing well at this financial company. I'm in finance. Would you like to grab some ice cream or something? Because I watched in this YouTube video of this dude. He was like, if you want to go on dates with girls, ask them out to ice cream because no one says no to ice cream. And I'm like, oh, changing that concept of like meeting with someone, no one says no to ice cream. So I was like, let's grab some ice cream.
That's true because I don't drink coffee. So I would say yes to ice cream.
Yeah, some people say no to coffee. Some people say no to drinks. But like ice cream is kind of that universal thing. If they say, "Oh, I'm healthy," like I don't eat ice cream, like let's get sorbet or froyo or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how one thing led to another. That's how I got my first internship. My second internship came from meeting with my career coach all the time. Again, after even having the #1 financial internship on my resume, when I was reaching out and trying to apply to places, I couldn't get even a call back. And I was trying to figure out, was like my name tied back to like a criminal or something? So my name wasn't even getting tied like the computer or whatever. And it got to a point where my career coach got frustrated, and he really loved who I was, that he went up to the director of the CWEP program at UCF, so Lockheed Martin, and he was like, you need to get this kid into the program. And so one thing led to another, and that's how I got the internship.
You had to have some type of a champion.
Exactly. You need that champion. And when I realized that, it was like, the reason that students are going to these career fairs in their minds is like they want to find that champion for them. But when you're competing with 2,000 other students, it's hard to really stand out.
It is. You know what? And the funny thing is, when everybody's in high school, they're all trying, middle school and high school, they're trying desperately to fit in, and they all look alike. The thing is, you should never do that. We're born to stand apart. We're born to be able to stand out and let people know who we are and what our gifts are. And so that seems to get awakened in college, but it doesn't actually hit the fan until like what you're talking about. Now I'm looking for a job, and you can't look like everybody else. And how are you going to do that? You've got to and I also believe we're really built for relationships, and it's about talking with people and getting to know them, exactly like what you're saying.
100%. So that's why we want to create like these more niche. So we're thinking about 100.
Like intimate.
Yeah, it's more so you can have an actual conversation with that person, because you can't really build a relationship over a 30-second to a minute conversation, especially
so like
if you've got
speed, kind of a speed dating kind of a thing.
So what we're doing with this event is we're having the career portion of it in one area. So it's going to be like a traditional career fair, but since we're having keynotes and panels going on at the same time, we're hoping that the crowd control portion of it allows for shorter lines, because there's nothing worse. Because I'll go to the UCF career fair, and there'll be like a 30 to 60 minute line at like Lockheed Martin or Disney or something like that. And when you're a student and you get up there and you're all dressed up, you're scared, you're anxious, you're nervous, and then you also have 100 people behind you waiting for their turn. You start stumbling over your words. You don't know even what to ask. You feel pressure that you need to get this conversation done in 30 to 60 seconds. I want to get rid of that atmosphere and create a more open atmosphere of some of these private events that I've gone to, where even though a celebrity is standing right next to you, it's not like a celebrity meet and greet where it's like, oh, let me take a picture. Okay, bye. It's more of, let me have a conversation with you. Let me get to know your story.
You're going to have ice cream there then.
Maybe, if they allow us.
Some type of little frozen treat, and you're sitting around the table and you're just eating and saying, okay, tell me about yourself, and then everybody at the table can get to know each other.
That's the interactivity part. So we're requiring companies that want to attend to have some sort of interactive portion to their booth. So most career fairs, you go in, you maybe pick up a sticker, you might pick up a T-shirt if you're lucky, mostly pens, and it's like, great, cool, I have some office supplies, but it's like you forget about the company. You probably don't even know what that company does.
And
right?
a lot of times it's like Halloween. People are just running around picking up stuff.
Oh,
off
I
of
did
the
that.
tables.
Yeah, I would say if you're a college student, you're foolish if you're paying for any school supplies, because you just go to one of those at the beginning of the semester. You can pick up 20 pens, you can pick up a bunch of notebooks, you can pick up a backpack.
Pads, you can get the things for the back of your phone.
Oh yeah, like I just came back from Podcast Movement. I've got a backpack full of probably 6, 7, 8 shirts in there, a brand new backpack, cups.
I so wanted to go. I really wanted to go, and I'm really glad you told me you were volunteering at it. And volunteering is the way to go. I think when you go to conferences, you don't sign up to just do it in the traditional route. I like to volunteer because I have these different types of conversations with the speakers. I have access to the speakers because now I'm a volunteer. Just kind of like what you were saying about, the person that is the janitor, the custodian, or anybody in charge of the banquet. It's a different...
Yeah, they look at you different. And a lot of times they don't know that you're a volunteer. They think you're a part of like the paid staff or whatever. So they're more open to introducing themselves to talk to you or whatever. Yeah. So like, for instance, at the South by Southwest that me and my girlfriend went to in the spring, I got to meet and talk to and have like a 5-10 minute conversation with the CEO of Anchor. So the podcasting company. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I was like, I would have never been able to do this if I'm asking a 10-second question and then I get pushed to the back of the line or whatever. So volunteering at these events, especially if you don't have capital to buy those like VIP tickets, is a really neat hack to get around.
I agree.
Things.
That's what I always do, is I sign up and go, okay, where's the conference and how can I get there?
Yeah, especially the smaller ones. If you can do the smaller ones, you'll get more time with these people.
All right. Well, we're going to take a little break, a patron announcement. Mel, I'm going to let you read it instead of me.
All right. Our next patron up is Starter Studio. Starter Studio is a pioneering hub for innovative and tech-enabled entrepreneurs that empowers and provides resources for entrepreneurs, creatives, and innovators to begin, grow, and flourish in Florida. Through community education programs, accelerators, funding, and collaborative workspaces, Starter Studio fosters a community, serving as a platform for the ideas of the future. Their website, starterstudio.org. Thank you, Starter Studio, for being a patron of the Intern Whisperer Live.
I could have a conversation with you for like half a day, and just like I'm so vibing on what it is that you're talking about. Okay, so what do you think the future of career fairs will look like 10, 20 years out from now?
I mean, I hope it's something like that we're trying to build, something that's more interactive, something that's more than when you walk up to a booth, the representative tells you, oh, just check out what we've got online. I think it needs to become more interactive, and I think that once companies realize the more interactive booth that they create, the more interesting internship that they create, they're going to start to attract more talent.
Yeah.
And I don't think that companies understand that, because a lot of their internship programs are just that, internship programs.
Yeah.
And let's say I go and intern at, for instance, like Foxtail Coffee, right? And I interned for them, but it's a really interesting internship, and I learned a whole bunch. I'm going to be talking about that for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, etc. But let's say I go intern at a Fortune 500 company, and I'm just doing paperwork, or I'm just doing Microsoft Excel sheets,
And people don't engage
Yeah.
with you.
exactly. Then it becomes this thing that either I'm talking badly about that company, or I'm just not talking about it. Like, for instance, there's one company that I interned with, where I was like, okay, let me just go and try to meet as many people as possible. And I set up, I met with my VP early and my SVP early. They love chatting with me, that they try to set me up in different departments so I can learn all about this company. And I had maybe 20 to 30 meetings set up for the rest of the summer. And it's like, okay, this is perfect. This is what I wanted. The next week when I come in, I guess my internship coordinator found out. She shut them all down without even telling me. All of a sudden I come back into work and it's like cancel meeting, cancel meeting, cancel meeting, cancel meeting. And I'm like, what is going on? I chatted with her. She said, I don't want you wasting their time, blah, 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 blah. So like now when people ask me about interning at that company, I tell them about the culture that was there. And especially if you're only accepting the best of the best talent, they're going to probably be around the best of the best talent. So if your company has a bad reputation with that one person, it kind of spreads like a virus. So that's why I think that the best way to attract talent is by treating that talent like their talent.
Yeah, and I think I think you hit the nail on the head also. It is about an experience, and when an experience is good with an intern, it should be good for the person that is that mentor. I think it's always best to have like 1 to 2 mentors, at least inside of that business. You need an industry mentor, you need a technical mentor, but then the rest of the people can give you life experience and they enrich it. You were trying to get a whole idea of what it would be like in every single department and have a very holistic, large view of it.
I was just trying to learn,
Yeah.
and that's my whole thing of like kind of how I treat life is.
Were they open to letting you even just
No,
go
they
and have
accepted
lunch?
it. They accepted it. They so
Somebody
I had
set it up.
No, yeah, I had my VP and SVP, their executive assistant, help set up all the meetings. They personally messaged them and said, hey, we have this student who's working XYZ. He's trying to learn about the different parts of this company. Would you like to meet with them?
Yeah,
And they
that could
put
be
him
like
on
a
the
lunch
calendar.
conversation,
Yeah, it
too.
was like 30 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes. And I was like looking through the list of like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm having meetings with these people.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I come in and it's like, yeah,
It
all
got
your
shut
meetings.
down. That's awful.
Yeah, and I talked to the person who helped set them up. She was like, yeah, I don't know why she did that, but that's just what's going to happen. So obviously she can't do anything about it. I can't really do anything about it. I expressed my opinion to the person who shut the meetings down, but I mean, it didn't really change anything. So, but it didn't stop me from getting some other meetings on board. So,
Well, were you ever an intern, and what was it like if you were?
yeah. So,
Well, you've shared those stories. but-
yeah, I've interned for 5 different companies, I think, when I was in college. 3 Fortune 150 companies and 2 startups.
5 is a really good amount. I really appreciate you sharing that because I think it gave you a lot of insight as to what you wanted to do. And I know I said that earlier, but I think it's normal now for people to go for 3, 4, and 5 is like a lot.
Yeah, I really looked at it as, again, that like kind of learning experience of, do I really see myself doing this? And especially in finance, it was a lot of Excel. And like when I was going through it, I was like, yeah, I really don't want to do Excel for the rest of my life. So when I did that internship, I went to another one just to see if that culture was different in a different industry in finance. Same type of thing. So I was like, okay, not for me. I interned at a couple of startups. One startup's culture was pretty poor. And that kind of taught me like who I don't want to be like. It was very
Yeah.
money focused. So I was like, okay, let me not be like that. totally get what they're doing. They're succeeding in their own way, but that's not how I want to be. And then I interned at another startup where it's like, okay, this is great. We kind of signed on because we had this one vision. But when it kind of came down to things, it just didn't work out. Like he didn't really want to do what I was asking him to do, even though I was more experienced in the field that I was trying to help him out with.
Like financial modeling?
It was more of marketing. So at that point, I was starting to transition into marketing. So I was trying to help this guy out with his marketing thing, but it just didn't work out that way.
Got it.
Yeah. So it happens.
So I'm pretty sure you're going to say what piece of advice. It's obviously to get relationships, be intentional, be strategic. Tell me if I'm hitting all of the marks.
Yeah, you're hitting everything there. And I would say the one thing that I guess I haven't really touched on is how to utilize LinkedIn through all of this.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So I'm huge on LinkedIn. I love it as a platform. And I think especially for students, it's really underutilized because everyone is showing on that platform, but they're not necessarily telling. So when you go to someone's profile page, especially students, it'll usually say, finance student at UCF or integrated business student at UCF, which is great. You're telling them what they technically want to hear. But when they come to your profile, how do they know that you're actually credible in what you do, right? Let's say you're a finance major and you actually know how to financial model and you actually know how to use Excel. Put up a video of you, like a screencast of you doing Excel, of you doing a VLOOKUP, of you creating a graph, whatever it may be. So when that recruiter comes to you, or comes to your page, they can actually have proof that you know how to do something. When I started talking to recruiters and HR people, they're like, hiring a college student is one of the biggest risks on the table because, yes, they have internships, experience maybe, but they don't necessarily know how credible all that stuff is. Yes, they have a degree, but again, it's not necessarily, you can't show what you learned. Like, what does an A mean when it comes to financial theory? What does an A mean when it comes to maneuvering an Excel sheet? And you can put proficient at Microsoft Excel on your resume. I guarantee you 99.9% of finance majors have that on their resume. Yeah. So how are you different? If you have your LinkedIn page and you're creating content around the latest earnings report, and then how you've been tracking this company. Or
even, not even content. Well, I agree content, but like you're making comments about the things that are out there. What did Bloomberg say? You know,
exactly.
What's going on? What are those trends? Like, pay attention to that and demonstrate your expertise in the comments that you're making.
Yeah, you have to. I always tell people, show, don't tell. People are sick and tired of being told. Like, I mean, you see all the time that students will put anything on their resume, which I get because you're trying to compete against everyone else. But if you, let's say you're in marketing and you can show that you've built an Instagram page to 1,000 followers, that's way better than that student with a 4.0 who has nothing to show that they know how to use hashtags or SEO or whatever it is. Yeah. So it's all about being creative, especially if you're not the quote-unquote greatest student. It's the key differentiator.
Man, I am enjoying this show, but I know we're getting like right towards where we're supposed to be wrapping things up.
Worries.
But okay, let's talk about Rebellion Rally. That was an event that you put on, and you had a really good response. But I love the social side where you were charging for it, but then you gave it back to a charity.
Yeah, it's something. It's a community that we're looking to build, especially in like the sales community. It can feel very transactional, whether it's a networking event, you're just there to change cards, try to get some business from someone. We're trying to change that narrative by every single time we have one of these events. We're looking to have a learning aspect to it. So providing value up front, and again, building that very cultured community of we want to help you out, not necessarily take business away from you. So for like people who are in the Orlando area, they might know of Tab, Tech and Beer. We want to build probably a similar community to that, where it's everyone's trying to help each other there.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that because I unfortunately couldn't make it to your event, but I had 3 things going on that night, and yours was one of them. But I'm going, okay, next one, I actually want to be able to participate, but on your side of the table too. Podcast movement. Let's go through that really quick. And then we're going to be wrapping up our show here. So tell us what podcast movement is, where is it, and what could somebody expect for the rest of the week?
Yeah, so podcast movement, I think it's the largest podcast gathering.
That's what they say.
I think they say it, right? It's like
3,000
3,000 attendees or something crazy like that. But it's a really interesting place to go. It's in Orlando this year. I think next year is going to be in Dallas. It ends, I think, midday on Friday.
And I think it's at the Rosen.
Yes, it's
right?
at Rosen.
The Rosen
yeah.
Hotel.
It's at Rosen Shingle
There's like
Creek.
3 of them downtown on iDrive.
So it's all about podcasting. Today they had Pat Flynn and they had John Lee Dumas. Tomorrow there's a whole slew of people speaking. I think in total they might have like 200, 300 speakers or something crazy like that.
Oh my goodness.
So it's an insane amount. I don't know, and too many off the top of my head. But they've got a really unique exhibit hall section where you can go through. Spotify's got a huge booth giving out like coffee. Himalaya was giving out strawberry daiquiris today. There's like a free beer and free petting puppies section over there.
Oh, puppies.
Yeah, so there's a slew of like Zencasters there, Headliner, all of these kind of podcast help companies are all there trying to show why you should do business with them or use their service or whatever it may be. So it's a great event. You get to meet a lot of cool people. I met and got to talk with John Lee Dumas a little bit today. And yeah, it's just a really interesting time to be in podcasting.
So you're going out for the whole event, right? All week?
Yeah, so I volunteered today until 2, and I volunteered tomorrow until like 1. And then it's kind of just being able to enjoy the event around that. But I didn't really set up my schedule the best, so I have a whole bunch of meetings to run in through the time. So I don't know how much time I'm going to be able to spend there. But the time that I am volunteering, I'm using it more as networking rather than volunteering.
Relationship building.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll go with that. Okay, so moving down, we're going to transition on out. All right, so we always give thanks to Valencia College for being able to be in the studio. We love being in it. We thank you, Q. He's our station manager. He's awesome. And we enjoy the staff that allow us to be able to work out of here. So, shout-outs. Melanie.
I guess I'll just give a shout out to my family who's visiting from New Jersey.
Shout out to the family.
Yes, shout out to family in general. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else? I mean, you just came back from the cruise. You should probably say thank you to the parents.
Oh, yeah. Thank you to my mom for paying for my ticket for the cruise. Yes,
Yeah,
thank
she
you,
went on this
thank you.
phenomenal cruise. She came back looking all nice and tanned and everything.
Nice.
Yeah, really relaxed. All right, Sydney, you're up.
Hey, I want to shout out Isabella for letting me come on this great night. And
Oh,
I
you're
wanna
welcome.
Thank Justin and Melanie for being awesome. And I really enjoy your story, Justin. And I
Thank
want to
you.
follow your business on all platforms.
Of course.
And I really like what you said about LinkedIn because I also slept on LinkedIn, but now I know how to effectively use it.
Yeah, it's a
So
great
that was
platform.
a great tip.
Yeah,
And that's my shout out for today.
Justin, you're up.
No, shout out to you guys. It was a great time chatting with you guys. Shout out to the Intern Pursuit Nation out there listening and tuning in. Shout out to GetChoGrindUp Nation too, because obviously without you guys, I wouldn't be here doing that.
Yeah.
Just keep on being you. Get your grind up and just have fun and try things.
Yes, I agree. And so my shout out goes to you, Justin. Thanks for being a guest on the show. Really excited about it. We're taking our guests up a whole nother level. We want to have really great guests that create engagement. I want to say thank you to you guys being across. You made all of the show happen. And then shout out to everybody on the Intern Pursuit team and also on the Pivot team. So thank you guys. So you can also find us, contact us at info@internpursuit.tech. Phone numbers on the website. Go to the website, go explore, check out our game, check out other previous episodes on our podcast, all of that good stuff. And as we close the show, we want to thank you, our listeners. So we're going to be signing off. Good night.
Peace.